What's going on, guys? Happy January the 20th, Martin Luther King Day. And we had one hell of a divisional round weekend of football. And it has to start in Buffalo. It has to start in Buffalo, where the Ravens and the Bills go head-to-head. And I told you guys last episode that anytime Lamar versus Josh Allen get together, you're going to get a classic. That's exactly what we got on Sunday night. We had 3 tickets punched to the conference championships. We were waiting on one more, and that was the game of the weekend that we thought it was going to be going into the weekend, and it ended up being the game that we thought it was going to be after the weekend. It was an unbelievable football game between two amazing organizations, as the Buffalo Bills came into this game as 1.5-point underdogs on their home field. I try to tell you guys, look, I'm all in on the Buffalo train. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to beat the Ravens. I did, and I stuck with that take. It was a tough one because it really was the definition of a coin flip. You had the 12-5 Ravens versus the 13-4 Bills. You had a Bills team that I gave the edge to because they were 8-0 at home this year. I could not bet against that home record, and I talked about it. Look, I said Josh Allen, his biggest kryptonite is the divisional round. This is a game where Josh Allen, he didn't have to play Superman, okay? I thought the Bills' run game was really good. I love their 3 running back combo between James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson. I think it's spectacular, the 3-headed monster that they have. I think you have all different facets of guys. I mean, James Cook is a hell of a rusher, but he can also get catches out of the backfield. I feel like Ty Johnson's more of a pass-catching back, and then Ray Davis is a bruiser. Get him inside the 10, get him to the goal line, he's going to punch it in for 6 every single time, and that's what he did on Sunday by getting a touchdown under his stat sheet. Look, I think they have a very good foundation, okay? That defense is really good too. I thought they did a really good job at containing the wide receivers. The Buffalo's defense, right? Look, Lamar Jackson, how can you contain him? The answer is you can't. The answer is you can't. You can't contain Lamar Jackson. But the biggest difference in this game between Baltimore and Buffalo was the turnover differential. That's the number one thing in this game on why the Buffalo Bills are still dancing and why the Baltimore Ravens season has came to an end. It has nothing really else to do with the fact of it is the turnover differential. Because I guess I would say there's 3 massive plays in this game that kind of changed everything. You start with the Lamar Jackson fumble. You start with that. That was a horrible fumble. Lamar Jackson was trying to make too much out of it, and guess what? He came up short, and he hurts himself, and it ends up being a huge scoop for Von Miller to go take that back, get Buffalo into scoring position. Rest is history, as Baltimore's got to play from behind the rest of the game now. That hurt. That hurt. Lamar Jackson's fumble right there, not a good time to have a fumble, okay? When you go and look at the next big play of the game, it's Mark Andrews. And this is not the last time we're going to talk about Mark Andrews, because he had the 2 biggest plays in this game. It is the catch over the middle that sets up Baltimore in really good field position late in the second half, and then he ends up fumbling the football. Buffalo recovers. Disaster. Just a disaster time for a turnover. 2 huge fumbles change this game. That is the difference in this game. This league is a game of inches. Every single play. You play 60 minutes, and it might not seem like play 34, right? Might have the same impact as play 86, but every single play matters just as much as each other because you can change a game in one play. And the biggest factor was the Buffalo Bills defense getting 2 major turnovers. Now, when Buffalo takes a lead and it looks like Baltimore's down but not out, you can never count out the greatness of Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, when the game was on the line, down 8, with 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, takes the Ravens on a drive, hooks up with Isaiah Likely. He's going to have a great future. Look, I think this was a coming out season for Likely. We saw it opening game against the Chiefs when he had his finger or his toe was just barely on the out of bounds line in Kansas City. That changed that game. This guy makes plays, and he made a huge play to get Baltimore an opportunity to go for 2 to send us into overtime. Now, the third biggest play, once again, happens to be Mark Andrews. It's a great play call by the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. Phenomenal job. Get Lamar Jackson to roll out. He's got a wide open Mark Andrews. And I don't know if it is because of the snowy weather conditions. I don't know if it is because of the 18-degree weather. I don't know if the ball is slippery or whatnot. But he throws a dart right to Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews is not ever going to forget that drop because it's the worst drop of his NFL career. Look, he's had a great Pro Bowl career. Is he a Hall of Famer? Maybe there's conversations at the end of his career that could happen, but to drop that football in that moment is a back-breaking moment. And that is something that, Baltimore fans are never going to forget. And, it's for Lamar Jackson, it's a tough one to swallow because it's another game, a big game moment where Lamar Jackson hasn't been able to get over that hump. Last year they had the AFC Championship. He had the opportunity to do it, but he couldn't. And look, this is no gripe on Lamar. I think Lamar's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's winning MVP, this and that. I get that. And that's not his fault they lost the game. But you know what? That fumble, that's still a big play in this game, okay? So Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can't get it done again. But the great thing about a 60-minute game is there are going to be hundreds of different chapters, and a chapter equals a play. And every single chapter has something that is going to matter at the end of the game. Even if it is a 2-yard run, a 3-yard run, every single chapter matters. And the 3 biggest chapters in this Bills-Ravens games all went on the good side for the Buffalo Bills and the negative side for the Baltimore Ravens. And that's something they're going to want to take back one day if they can, because now a great Ravens season comes again shortly before a Super Bowl, and that is just eating at Baltimore fans, I'm sure, as the Buffalo Bills take a 27-25 victory over the Ravens in an unbelievable divisional round matchup. I said coming into this game, I thought the Buffalo Bills had the upper hand. And I mentioned, I think, why I gave it was definitely that home crowd. But 2, I just don't think Josh Allen has really turned over the football at all this year to the level that he's used to. I think he's playing really smart football this year. And there it is. The ending of this game came down to the turnover differential and Mark Andrews dropping that football in the end zone. That's just tough. That's tough for Baltimore, but we set up a really fun game next week in Arrowhead when we get the Bills and we get the Chiefs. That's going to be a great one. Sticking on the Sunday slate, though, it is the Rams and the Eagles. The Eagles 28, the Rams 22. And my God, man, this game was a little bit nerve-wracking if you are a Philadelphia Eagle fan come late into the game. It is. Because you go up 28-12, or 28-13, no, 28-15, 28-15. You're feeling great. Jake Elliott's missed extra point could come back to haunt you, right? But it doesn't matter. The Rams go down, they score. They're now down 28-22. And the Rams go on a 2-minute drive, get inside the 20. The biggest factor of this game, Jalen Carter. And Saquon Barkley certainly helps. Guys, here's a different conversation for a different time, but it is actually crazy when you think about it. The demand on a running back is not as much as what it used to be, meaning Saquon Barkley wouldn't even rank in the top 30 highest wide receivers in the NFL with the contract that he has with the Philadelphia Eagles, because that's how ridiculous the running back market is. It's an underpaid position. You take so much wear and tear with your body that you don't give running backs maybe the value that they deserve. Because look, Saquon Barkley was an MVP candidate this year. Saquon Barkley was absolutely spectacular. No doubt about that whatsoever this season. But when you look at it, guys like Gabe Davis down in Jacksonville, okay, he left Buffalo to go to Jacksonville. He has more money this season alone than what Saquon Barkley got because he's a wide receiver. It's the difference between the wide receiver market and the running back market. And what's crazy to me is Saquon Barkley was probably the best signing in the offseason, and he doesn't even get any close to a portion of what these wide receivers get. But this is a guy in Saquon Barkley that was absolutely incredible, not only on Sunday, but all season. Look, he had 205 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. The guy's unstoppable. He's absolutely unstoppable. And Howie Roseman did a great job on bringing Saquon in from New York, because if this Eagles team does not have Saquon Barkley, they may not even have made the playoffs. And I'm not exaggerating. They've now advanced to an NFC Championship, but Saquon is that important. Because when you look at Jalen Hurts, this isn't really a shot at Jalen Hurts or anything like that. I'm just speaking a fact here. When you build around a quarterback that is a good system quarterback, that's a game manager, you can do really good things. And Jalen Hurts is a game manager. Because when you look at the 4 playoff wins with Jalen Hurts in his career so far, his career high in passing yards in those 4 wins is 156 passing yards. Yes. 156 passing yards in the 4 wins was his high. Why is that? I don't know. I think when you build good defenses and you have a good running game that can make Jalen's life easier, it's going to make it better. All Jalen has to do is not turn over the football. Because guys, Jalen was not great on Sunday. He had that long rush for a touchdown. That was huge. But the passing game was non existent. And it's lucky you got Saquon Barkley, because that guy is an absolute game changer. And he is absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Now, you know who's not spectacular? And that's the Dallas Cowboys, because everybody wants to make this joke about the Cowboys now having the long-existing playoff drought, and we're going to get to Washington in a second. But look, I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles have been to 8 NFC Championship games since the Dallas Cowboys last went to one. I don't usually think that would be a good recipe for success, right? But you have egotistical Jerry Jones running the Plains in Arlington, Texas, and it's a disaster. And the disaster is on full throttle right now as embarrassment continues to reach new high expectations and level of peak. Look, the Eagles just take care of the Rams. They're going back to the NFC Championship for the second time in 3 years. They're doing what they need to do. That's just winning football games. Winning football games. Now, they have not been able to get that Super Bowl. They got there a couple years ago, but Patrick Mahomes had the last laugh. Could that be a difference maker this year? They may be getting back there because Saquon Barkley is that good. But like I was saying earlier, look, the difference maker in this game, of course, was Saquon, but it's Jalen Carter. You know, I talked about coming into this game where I hit it spot on the nail. Or I got it spot on. The biggest difference in this game was the front sevens on both sides. Because I thought both front sevens were absolutely spectacular on Sunday. You saw Matthew Stafford get sacked 5 times. Jalen Carter was a present all day long in that LA Rams backfield. He was making things happen. He was causing havoc. That's what you need out of a guy like Jalen Carter. Then you go and look at what the Rams front seven did. Jared Verse and other guys like Sisk, they had 7 sacks. 7 sacks. I mean, they were making life hell when Philadelphia wanted to run or pass the football, so they had to allude to just running the football because that's where their success was coming from. But the biggest X factor in this game was Saquon Barkley. The front seven for the Rams pass rush was there, but their run defense wasn't there. And the Philadelphia Eagles are marching on to hosting an NFC Championship game against a divisional rival in the Washington Commanders. Now, I know I did just say the Washington Commanders. That is true. They went on the road to the Detroit Lions this weekend and probably had the biggest shocker of the weekend. I think when we all look at the Lions, we probably thought they were Super Bowl favorites. They were definitely destined for at least to get to an NFC Championship, and they came up short, and that's going to haunt Lions fans for quite some time as they lose 45-31 to the Washington Commanders and a rookie sensation in Jaden Daniels. Look, this guy is the real deal. He is the real deal. He really is, man. Jaden Daniels is that guy that you want on your roster. The second pick of the draft comes into this organization, and I've dogged Washington this year. I've had moments where I've called them frauds. Well, I take that back completely because they have absolutely made me shut up. They have absolutely proved to everybody that they're not only here for this year, but they're here for years to come. And that's because they got a game changer in Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has completely, and it's not only him, I think the hiring of Dan Quinn was a phenomenal hire. I think that's a culture hire. I mean, when he was in Atlanta, he had a really good culture. He gets a bad rap because they blew a 28-3 lead. But Dan Quinn should be a Super Bowl head coach. That's a fact. He's a player's first coach. The players love him. They love Dan Quinn. And for good reason, because that guy is a great head coach. And now he's taken his talents to Washington. He has a really good staff. I think Cliff Kingsbury, when he has an explosive quarterback, can be a really good offensive coordinator. And this Washington offense has been really good this year. Jaden Daniels has been spectacular. Terry McLaurin has had a career year for that wide receiving room. You have guys stepping up left and right. The offensive line's not great, but you know what? They play to their strengths. And Cliff Kingsbury's done a great job with that. And the Washington Commanders walk into Detroit as a 9.5-point underdog and kind of shock us all. They kind of shock us all. Because it wasn't only from start to finish, or, maybe a couple good drives here and there. No, or a close game. No, they beat the hell out of the Detroit Lions. I mean, they kicked their ass. Let's say it as it is. The Washington Commanders had 28 points in the second quarter. They put up a 28 spot, which is ridiculous, but they scored 31 first half points. And they didn't stop there. They finished with 45. The offense was clicking all night, and it's finally the first time, I think, in a while where this Detroit Lions team's injuries on the defensive side of the football caught up to them. Aaron Glenn is going to get a head coaching job, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He is a great defensive coordinator. Unbelievable job, okay? But that defense is decimated with injuries. It is decimated. And they have been able to kind of puzzle piece together wins and make stops when they need to. But they've given up a good amount of points, sure. But at some point, once you have too many injuries, it's going to be tough to come back from that. And they finally seemed as they got caught up to. And it was a tough night at the office on Saturday night for the Detroit Lions as the Washington Commanders had their way with them. Just an unbelievable performance from Washington. They now set up an opportunity to go into Philadelphia, where they've already beat the Eagles once this year, so it is a winnable game, to get to a Super Bowl. I don't think any of us expected that, but now the possibility of that happening is in real shot for Washington. So that will be the 3 o'clock game next Sunday. The 6:30 game will be the Bills and the Chiefs. Now let's talk about that one to end it. I think this is a game we kind of all knew what was going to happen, right? I don't think we expected the Commanders to beat the Lions, but I definitely thought it could be a little closer than maybe what we thought the Texans-Chiefs was going to be. This is a game where from start to finish, the Chiefs, they dominated. Travis Kelce looked like prime Travis Kelce. He was really good. 117 receiving yards and a touchdown. I think the officiating was certainly, it wasn't bad throughout the game, but there was moments where, Mahomes gets a call that maybe any other quarterback doesn't get. It is called differently, all right? It is called differently for Patrick Mahomes than maybe other quarterbacks, but that's just kind of you got to be accustomed to that at this point. Over the years, Mahomes is going to get a little more leash and a little more leeway than other quarterbacks or other teams in this league, and that's just how it is. But the season comes to an end for the Texans. Disappointing year for the Texans. I know they won a playoff game. They shocked the Chargers. I get that and whatnot. But I think we saw the sophomore regression out of C.J. Stroud. I think he had a sophomore slump. I thought he struggled a little bit this year. I understand, losing Stephon Diggs, losing Nico Collins, losing Tank Dell. I mean, they lost so many key pieces in this Houston team where it's tough to come back from that. But it will be interesting to see what he does in his third year in the league next year. He's a divisional champ twice. He's won 2 playoff games. So, I mean, I get it. Or he's won 1 playoff game, I think. But we'll see where they go to regroup. Kansas City, on the other hand, just another dominating win. I think the game plan that Steve Spagnuolo had was spectacular. I thought Houston struggled offensively for the majority of that football game. They could not get anything going at all. So I think Spags did a wonderful job. And I'm dead serious. I don't know if any assistant coach has ever been in the Hall of Fame. But I definitely think if there hasn't been, we may have our first one in Steve Spagnuolo. Because the absolute unbelievable preparation Steve Spagnuolo puts forth each and every single weekend, not only this year, but in years past with this Kansas City defense that doesn't spend a ton of money defensively, that has let guys like L'Jarius Sneed walk, and then they just replace guys and turn them into Trent McDuffies of the world, right? Steve Spagnuolo has done a phenomenal job. And I think he's the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. I think he's the best assistant coach in the NFL. And I definitely think he's not going to take a head coaching job probably throughout his career. So I definitely think this is a guy that's going to, he may not go to the Hall of Fame. That's a stretch. But he should never go underappreciated. And I know he doesn't in Kansas City. I know they love him because that guy is one hell of a football coach and that guy is a hell of a defensive coordinator. He schemes up some unbelievable defensive looks and makes quarterbacks' lives hell. Another big one for Kansas City. They stay alive. They are moving on. And now we have a NFC Championship between two NFC East teams, and we have a Bills-Chiefs Classic, which we remember the Kadarius Toney offsides play, right? It's going to be a classic between these two teams come next Sunday. I'm excited for that one. Now, let's talk here tonight. The National Championship. Notre Dame versus the Ohio State University. Look, I think when you look at this game here, it's an 8.5-point spread. Ohio State's heavy favorites here. I think a lot of the bets are going on Notre Dame to cover, and I think the sports book need an Ohio State win and an Ohio State cover. But I think when you look at this game, I do think Ohio State's the better team. I think Ohio State's got just more playmakers than maybe Notre Dame does. And look, when I look at Notre Dame, I like Jeremiah Love. I think Riley Leonard is a gamer. I think their defense is pretty stout. They've definitely got a couple injuries, problems that they have to figure out. And they're down one of their best offensive linemen going into this national championship game after he got hurt against Penn State. How will Marcus Freeman be able to prepare for that? We shall see. Look, he's had plenty of time to do it. He's had over a week to do it. I think Notre Dame has really had a really good draw in this playoff, right? You can't ask for a better one. You play Indiana. We all know Indiana is probably the biggest frauds that entered this playoff anyway. And then you get the opportunity to play Georgia without Carson Beck. Sign you up 10 times out of 10, right? So that's really good. And then, you get a Penn State team. Well, if you're getting any team in the country, if you're saying, hey, you're going to play Penn State in the semifinal, you're going to take that any day of the week because there's a lot of better teams that you could play than Penn State. That's no, disrespect towards Penn State. That's just the reality of the matter. So Notre Dame's definitely had a favorable draw to get here. Can they finish it off? Because you don't get this opportunity really ever. The last time they were in the national championship, I want to say they lost 42-14 to Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide. Hopefully, Notre Dame comes out and plays a lot better than their last national championship appearance. On the other side, look, you get Ohio State. I just talked about playmakers, right? I don't think, first of all, Notre Dame has said they're going to go man-to-man. And if that is the case, if their secondary does want to go man-to-man, you're playing a dangerous game. Because Jeremiah Smith, true freshman, this guy could be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft this year. I'm not joking. He's that good. He's going to have a field day in man-to-man coverage. And Mbeku, they got so many other targets where they are going to shred you apart if that is the case. And then, if you're going to let them have all the time in the world, they can also run the football with their two-headed monster, Judkins, the Ole Miss transfer, Travion Henderson, probably going to be an early day 2. Maybe could sneak into the late first round, but probably an early day 2 pick in the second round. That guy's going to play in the NFL next year. Both running backs are. So, look, this Ohio State team's just got weapons. And even on the defensive side of the football, we saw what Jack Sawyer was able to do in the semis against Texas. And Caleb Downs is probably the most talented defensive football player on either side coming into the game tomorrow. That guy is a gamer, and he will be playing on Sundays. So I just think Ohio State's got more athletes. I think Ohio State's got the upper hand here. And I think the Buckeyes are going to be ready to go. And I think it's going to be one hell of a story, regardless of who wins this national championship. And we'll talk about that on Thursday. Because when we look at it, this is I'm like a broken record at this point, but I'll say it again. It's a team who lost to Northern Illinois at home, and it's a team that lost to 7-5 Michigan at home, now playing in a national championship. Do these two teams deserve it? Absolutely not. That's just the nature of the beast in the 12-teamer now. They got hot at the right time. Notre Dame got a favorable draw. Ohio State's had a gauntlet of a draw, but that doesn't matter. They are just doing what's in front of them. And not only are they just playing what's in front of them, they are decimating what is in front of them and beating the hell out of their opponents. The Oregon win was unbelievably impressive. The Texas win was very impressive. And now they've set themselves up with a chance in Atlanta tonight to win a national championship and bring one back to Columbus. It's a huge opportunity, huge for Ryan Day. How will he fare in this type of game? We talk about he's not been able to win the big one. Is this the time he finally does it? We shall see. 7:30 on ESPN in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz. Let's just hope for a good game. It's an 8.5-point spread. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am. But I do think it could get ugly pretty quickly. I think Ohio State's just got too many guys. Too many guys. But we'll see. I do like Marcus Freeman. I think he's done a great job with that football team. I think Marcus Freeman is definitely going to have those Irish guys ready to believe in themselves that they're going to go win a football game. So I do think it will be a close game. I think we could have a, dogfight. But I think Ohio State could also run away with this one. So we shall see what happens. But give me the Buckeyes by 10 on Monday night. And then to end the show, we have some college hoops to talk about as well. Good weekend of college basketball once again. It's an absolute crazy week, all right? We had Ole Miss fall at Mississippi State. And why that was so significant is because Ole Miss losing, and well, I guess Illinois at Michigan State, we had 19 out of 25 ranked teams lose this weekend. 19 out of 25. Just absolutely incredible week of college hoops. And I mean, you got some teams that weren't ranked that it's kind of becoming a, repeated record here again. And we talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks. They dropped to 0-5 in the SEC. Their last place in the SEC. It's the first ever 0-5 start for Arkansas since joining the SEC. Not ideal. They're not that great. Does John Calipari retire at the end of the year? It's something you may have to consider. He's not that great right now, and everything is going absolutely downhill really fast for Coach Cal. And it's sad to see him go out like this, but that's what it looks like right now. But some of the games over the weekend, you had number 2 Iowa State go down to West Virginia. I feel like the new coach down there in Morgantown came from Drake. He has done a great job. Great job. 13-4 West Virginia team. They also have a win over Gonzaga. They also have a win over Kansas at Kansas. Now you get an Iowa State win. He's building that resume up really good there for the Mountaineers. It's good when West Virginia is good in college basketball, right? We used to have Coach Huggins. They were a real contender. Then they've fallen off for quite some time. Javion Small, 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals. Had an unbelievable game on Saturday as they stormed the court in Morgantown. I think the game of the day, Alabama-Kentucky, felt like a Final Four game. It was a heavyweight fight, a 102-97 victory for Alabama. This offense is number 1 in the country for a reason, and for them to end up winning that game against the number 3 overall offense in the country, Kentucky. Look, you give up 97 points, you're probably not going to win, right? No, Nate Oates and the Alabama Crimson Tide found a way to do it. Grant Nelson was an unbelievable contributor on Saturday for Alabama. The big key difference in this game was they just had a run in the second half that put them up by 5-7. And look, when you're up 5, when you're up 7 in a game like that, it can go away from you in the blink of an eye. But it's tough to play catch up. It exerts a lot of energy out of you, and Kentucky just couldn't get over that hump. They tied it at 81 late in the second half, and then Alabama goes on a quick 9-0 run, and they're up 90-81, and the rest is history. When I look at it, I think Alabama needed a response win after their loss at home to Ole Miss. And when you look at it for Kentucky's sake, you never want to lose at Rupp, right? It's a tough place to play. You don't want to lose your home games in the SEC. It's not going to hurt you at the end of the year. I think Alabama's a Final Four capability of type team to get there. I think Nate Oates is a great coach. So I think this is just 2 heavyweights going at it. They get to play once again in February, this time at Alabama. And I think we're going to get another heavyweight fight between the two. But just a really good basketball game on Saturday between 2 really good teams. We had Vanderbilt at home upset Tennessee Tennessee, man, I'm going to tell you this right now. I see a lot of people speculating they're going to be a 1 seed. They're definitely close to the 1 line. They're 16-2. I get that. I don't see Tennessee being an Elite 8 team like they were last year with Dalton Connect. I don't see them being a contender. That's just my opinion, sure. But I just don't think they have an it factor this year in Knoxville. Sure, maybe Chaz Lanier might be that guy, but when the lights shine brightest on Chaz on Saturday against Vanderbilt, he gets blocked at the rim, then he goes to the free throw line for a chance to send this game into overtime. Makes the first, but he misses the second and comes up short. 2 horrible moments for the guy you're paying the most against Vanderbilt. No disrespect to Vandy. I think Jeff Bennington has done an unbelievable job. That guy has done a great job. He's revived Vanderbilt basketball. They're 15-3. They are a team that is right now probably just in. Probably that win Saturday definitely helps. But in the NCAA tournament, he's done great in year 1 on that job. What a job for Vandy. They've actually revived that program to where the crowd actually comes out. It's a good student section there. It's not an easy place to play because it's just such a unique arena, but they get a huge win. But I'm going to put Tennessee in the fraudulent category. I personally don't believe in them. Maybe that will change. Another team I want to put in the fraudulent category, Shaka Smart's Marquette guys, I don't believe in. They almost lost to DePaul earlier in the midweek. They had to get an overtime win there. And then Sean Miller's 11-7 Xavier Musketeers, who aren't that great this year at all, came in under 500 in the Big East. And the Big East is not a good conference this year, okay? It's not like you could be 3-4 in the SEC this year or the Big Ten and be okay and still be a really good team. No. The Big East is not that great. But Xavier goes on the road to Marquette and wins 59-57 on Saturday, and that's a bad loss for Marquette. There's really no way to circle that and spin zone that. It's a really bad loss. It's something that's a head scratcher as well. Just as UConn losing to Creighton. This UConn team is not the UConn we are accustomed to. Okay? No Donovan Klingman walking through that door. No Stephen Castle. I know Liam McNeely's got that ankle sprain, but that just goes to show, without Liam McNeely, this UConn Husky team is in trouble. They're in trouble, and Dan Hurley's going to have to figure that out really fast. I thought he did maybe find something there because they were rolling wins together. Okay, they were rolling wins together, and then McNeely gets that injury, and everything kind of just goes sideways, and that is not a good recipe for success if you are the UConn Huskies. But and I think also, one more game I want to talk about is Michigan State taking down Illinois on Sunday. Look, nobody really is talking about them. But the most underrated team in the country is the Michigan State Spartans. This team is a legitimate national championship contender. Maybe. I don't know if they're national championship, but they are a team that's Elite 8, Final 4 right now. If we're talking right now, they're 16-2. They're 7-0 in the Big Ten. They continue to roll through everybody. They're red hot. Absolutely. This is a team that is on fire. I want to say they've won 11 in a row. Nobody seems to want to talk about them. I don't believe this Michigan State team has lost since the Maui Invitational against Memphis. They are just rolling wins together, and their other loss was to Kansas to open up the season in the Champions Classic. They're red hot, and they are playing really, really good football right now in East Lansing. I think Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans need a little more credit than maybe what we're giving them. But a huge win for Michigan State, nonetheless. But that's going to do it to this episode of the Mac on Sports Podcast. I love you guys so much. Happy Martin Luther King Day. I will see you guys Thursday to preview the conference championship weekend, and we will crown a new national champion in college football. Love you guys. Peace out.